One of the coolest shows on HBO is back for a second season, so it's time to make like the Roy family and get down to business. Let's get started. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Hello, homies. Welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Succession Season 2, Episode 1, The Summer Palace, together. As usual, if you enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Otherwise, I will be hostilely taken over by a larger YouTube channel, which is pretty much every other channel on YouTube. HBO shows are this sort of league unto their own, where, you are going to get the best quality acting and writing and cinematography and all that jazz, but you're going to get very short seasons and you are going to get them spaced very far apart. I still have to wait at least a year, maybe more, for Westworld Season 3, and I feel like I've already been waiting a year. The HBO wait times between seasons can get kind of crazy, so it's a little refreshing to see Succession come back after pretty much just 1 year. It feels like a normal hiatus between seasons of a normal TV show. Succession ended last June, July, and now Season 2 is here already. I guess maybe because there are no CG dragons or robot cowboys that they need to add in post, so they can just give us the show as it is. They don't have to worry about any VFX. And I'm glad that's the case because I was missing that HBO goodness, so it's nice to tune back in and get all Successioned all over my face. Now, this review is going to contain all the spoilers for Season 2, Episode 1, The Summer Palace. So if you haven't tuned into that yet, do that first, then come back here. And if you haven't watched Season 1 of Succession yet, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but why don't you go ahead and go do that, and then tune into this, and then tune into this. I know you have a lot of steps ahead of you. I'm sorry, but you'll thank me for it. So apparently, this is picking up just like 48 hours or so after the end of Season 2. Kendall has been in rehab for just that long before Big Bad Logan Roy pulls him out to do some more kowtowing, brown-nosing, just business in general that benefits only Logan and no one else, really. The most entertaining thing about this show, by far, is just watching the family dynamic unfold in the way that one watches a train wreck unfold. These people are messed up. That's what growing up as billionaires does to you. They are messed up folks. And it's fascinating and disgusting and horrific and hilarious all at the same time to see these people jab at one another and try to interact like human beings, and sometimes succeeding and sometimes really coming across as like less human than the dragons and robot cowboys that HBO is offering on different time slots. It's not often you come across a TV show or a movie where you are not rooting for anybody. So when that comes along in a show like Succession, it's so much fun to just watch these hyenas tear one another apart, whether it's verbally, mentally, sometimes physically. Personally, I think it's very refreshing that so far there's nobody that has really redeemed themselves on the show, and I like that. I like that a lot because, we live in the world now of very complex storytelling where, again, look no further than something like Game of Thrones, where you meet Jaime Lannister and he's like this bad dude who sleeps with his sister and throws boys off of bell towers, and you're like, oh, he's a bad guy, but then he eventually redeems himself and you learn there's more to him than that, and he becomes a lovable hero. And that's great. That's beautiful. I love when storytelling does that. But it's so nice and refreshing and just goddamn fun to see a show where every character is a despicable human being and they stay that way. I love that. It's different. And I really hope the show stays that course. I really hope the show doesn't try to cram sympathy too far down our throats. I think it's balancing just at the right level where we're like, we kind of love to hate these people. And if something bad happens to them, we feel bad, but not too bad. I like that it's straddling that line in a very delicate way. And I hope it doesn't go too far over the edge and suddenly be like, well, they're all so damaged and here's sympathy for this guy and this girl. I really hope that doesn't happen. I want these people to be as garbage people as they have been so far. And Season 2, Episode 1 is keeping up with that trend. Even somebody like Kendall, who we are really supposed to be feeling for and sympathizing with, especially in this episode where he is just beaten. Like, this is a defeated human being who has no fight left in any fiber of his body. You would think the episode would be trying to garner sympathy for him, but the minute Kendall gets a scene with somebody who is lower than him on the status totem pole, we see that brashness come out of him. We see him bossing this person around. We see him being rude and making dismissive comments, and we see the money that he has grown up with. It becomes visible again. We're like, oh yeah, there's that billionaire's son, born with a golden spoon in his mouth and just being a jerk to anybody who's not another billionaire. There he is. Please, writers of Succession, keep this up. Keep making me love to hate these people, because as far as I'm concerned, that is the fun of the show. That is what separates it from other shows. Now, the plot of this one was pretty straightforward. It's a pilot of a season, so, it really just kickstarts what Season 2 is going to look like moving forward. And from the shape of things, Season 2 is going to be a very bloody battle, because Logan Roy sits down, he has that talk with his banker, and he's like, am I crazy? Should I be selling the company right now? Why is this looming over my head so much? And the banker's like, hey, look, you are a media company. In 10 years, is the media company going to be a dinosaur? Is Webb going to completely annihilate big media? And Logan mulls that over, and he's the one now who comes to this sort of crossroads where he's like, am I selling or am I staying? So he calls the family to that summit that he has at that summer house, even though this episode clearly takes place in a very cold time of year because everybody's all bundled up. And they got dead raccoons in this summer house that are stinking up the joint. Man, that reveal of what was up the chimney was friggin' gross. But what an apt, if not subtle, metaphor for what's going on in this family. You have this beautiful, pristine, multi-million-dollar home, God knows where, probably one of the islands of New York somewhere. And there is just rot infesting this home from the inside out and making it a very unappealing place to be. I mean, if that doesn't sum up the Roy family, I don't know what will. So Logan holds this giant summit and he's like, guys, do I sell to Sandy Furness or are we staying in business? What's the deal here? And again, Logan Roy never just straight up asks a question hoping for advice. This is all mind games. This is all, like you see in that painting on top of Logan's head, just dick measuring, mind game manipulation, pitting one family member against another, just horrible awfulness. And before you know it, what happens? Logan is offering the deal of a lifetime, because the stipulation is if he is going to stay in the game, if he chooses not to sell Waystar Royco, he has to name a successor. Like, that right there is insane. Telling your group of children, oh, so I gotta, if I'm gonna make this decision today, then I also have to name a successor. So what do you guys think of that? It is like manipulation 101, baby. It is crazy the way he gets under the skin of all of his children. And then it just becomes a viper's nest at that point. They are just snapping at one another. You can see that clearly there's this past, there's this hatred there, but now they're even trading barbs with the intent of like, I am going to be the one that comes out on top. If anybody's leaving this house alive, it's me. And it just gets worse and worse to the point where Logan makes the ultimate dick move and he's like, I'm going to go into this room over here and shut the door. And you all can come in and see me one by one and let's talk it out. Logan Roy is the fucking devil. He is the devil. And he has all of these kids twisted around his finger. To the point where when that scene took place where Siobhan goes into that room and she talks with Logan and he tells her in a very un-Logan, straightforward way, listen, if I'm not going to sell, if we're keeping the company, you're my choice for successor. We are so on edge because we know that nothing comes without a big, giant neon asterisk with this man. Plus, we didn't see his conversation with Roman. That happened off camera, so God only knows what he told Roman. It feels great. It feels like we, the audience, are being played the same way the kids are being played. We have information we know, we have information we don't know, and we never get to look inside Logan Roy's head, which, again, I love. I love that the writers are not trying to be like, oh, but sympathize with this man. Because look, no, I love that he is just this evil enigma that is running the show, always, one step ahead of everybody else. And we just have to be along for that ride and watch this unfold like a train wreck. And Siobhan walked into this house the most strong-willed of the four kids and being like, no, absolutely not. I'm not falling for this BS again. I'm just here basically out of duty at this point. But by the time she walks out of that room with her father, she is melted and gooey, and she's like, oh my God, yes, I'll take the company. I'm so happy. And she's like crying. And all of a sudden we can see that whatever strength she walked into the house with, Logan Roy has sort of taken and molded like clay to use for his own advantage. Now the kids are already hating each other because of all the drama that happened last season. Now they're going to hate each other more so because he is either clearly picking a favorite in Siobhan, or he's telling everybody what they want to hear. And I think that is the much more interesting outcome. If he is telling Roman what Roman wants to hear, and then if he goes and tells Kendall what Kendall wants to hear, all of a sudden you have not just all-out war with Burnett, but you have all-out war within the Roy family itself. And I can't wait to see that unfold. Speaking of Burnett, we end the episode with him, where Kendall just sort of walks up to Burnett, and in that very defeated way that he has about him this whole episode, which was fascinating. It's fascinating to see this guy, just like, who was so full of vigor last season, just be completely devoid of soul and reiterate his father's grotesque comments in a dead voice. That was one of the most sad / hilarious things I have ever seen. And for Burnett to kind of just take it in stride and be like, okay, I guess it's war. To end on that anticlimactic note was kind of this genius little move. It was like taking this brilliant symphony and then kind of ending on a flat note just because. I adored this episode. I think this was one of the best episodes of the series so far. I'm so glad Succession is back, and it is back full force. I am looking forward to spending 9 more weeks with the most detestable family in television history. I'll see you next week. We'll cover Succession Season 2, Episode 2. We'll talk about it even more in depth because I'm sure even more stuff is going to happen. This was a very light episode, so it was kind of a very light review. But until then, if you happen to be watching this and you happen to be a billionaire, please don't be a jerk like them. Anyway, I'm Andrew Fantasia. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you here next time, and until then, adios.